friends, thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you all are having a fantastic day. I can't believe we're already almost to New Year's. I'm so ready for 2021. Are you? I think we're all ready for a new year, a new start. Hopefully 2021 will be a much better year for a lot of people. Let's cross our fingers, keep our good energy going, some prayers out for that. I think we all could use some good news and some good things, right? So in this video, I wanted to talk about some of the trends that I think we're going to see in 2021. The person who inspired me to do this video is Angelica Nyqvist. I think that's how you say her last name. I've never heard her say it, so I always feel badly when I mispronounce people's names. But anyway, I'll have her linked below, but she's an amazing creator, and she does a prediction every year about what trends we might see in the upcoming year. So I thought, hey, it'd be kind of fun to do that as well. So I have it broken up by makeup products and releases to makeup trends and business trends within the beauty space, and then also some trends on YouTube. So if that sounds interesting to you, please stay tuned. By the way, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Em, and you're watching Makeupry. So in spirit of Emalyce, I also have a giveaway in this video, so stay tuned for the end for that announcement. In order to be eligible, you do have to be subscribed, so please be sure to click that subscribe button and give the notification bell a ring so that you know when to come back for a new video. I hope that you do come back and that you enjoy hanging out with me, because I surely enjoy hanging out with you. Anyway, that sounded really cheesy, and I feel like Hallmark movie music should be playing in the background there. Little violin, you know, hey, whatever. So 2020 has been an interesting year for beauty and for trends, and we've seen unprecedented changes in beauty, from production to what kinds of products we're using and wearing, if we're even wearing makeup, because a lot of people are staying home. And mask wearing has pretty much limited what kind of face makeup you want to wear. But I think that for a good part of 2021, those trends are going to kind of stay intact. We may see that with increased vaccinations and hopefully more social distancing until then, that maybe we'll come to a point where we're not having to wear masks. But I don't know. I mean, this whole situation is unpredictable at best. So I think that at least for the first 6 months of the year, we're not going to see any major changes to what we're already seeing now with how makeup is being worn. That entails simple face makeup. For example, maybe not wearing heavy foundation, and if you do wear foundation, it's kind of light. Maybe it's something that's dewy. That's been a trend for the last year, is more natural looking skin. Blush was pretty popular this year as well, and I think we're going to continue to see blushes. I am one who jumped on that blush train in 2020 because I never used to wear blush. If I did, it was because I was really pale or I was really tan, and that natural color just kind of escaped my face. But I've noticed that when I do wear blush now, it just seems to lift my cheeks up, and I just feel, I don't know, there's something about wearing blush. It helps when you find an amazing formula that you love to wear, and I think that's what changed the game for me this year. But I think we're going to see some strong contenders in 2021 in that blush game. I think we're going to see a lot more blush. I think we're going to also see some new products hit the market. I think a lot of people tend to prefer dry powders, but there's something about cream blushes and liquid blushes and tints and things like that that are really beautiful on the skin. And you know, glassy skin is kind of a trend, but I feel like it's kind of here to stay for a little while. And I think one of the best ways you can achieve a glassy skin is to use cream products, especially in the blush, because it just melts into your skin and it looks like your natural skin, whereas powder can often stay on top of your skin. It doesn't always blend in as well. And it can look patchy if you're not careful in your blending. I also think we're probably going to see some more subtle highlighting products. Before 2015 and 2016, when highlighters demand exploded and all of a sudden highlighters are everywhere, I think we're going to kind of see a little bit of a return to this highlighter phase, but not anywhere near what it was before. So like the champagne pops and all that stuff, I don't think we're going to see anything of that nature come back at that scale. I think what we might see are some new innovative products. I think we're going to see some face balms and perhaps some products that are minimal. It used to be way back when that if you wanted a highlighter, you would put a little bit of Vaseline on your face and it would just create a little bit of sheen. That was the original glassy skin. Nowadays we have other products for that, but I think we might see some more products like that hit the market in more of a mainstream way, or at least the YouTube mainstream way. And I don't know how that'll take off. I feel like we're probably going to see some gimmicky products along those lines, like we saw from Becca. So we saw something with Becca's release of that no foundation blurring whatever that monstrosity was. Obviously they got some backlash for that, but they're still selling the product. If that product wasn't doing well, they probably would have pulled it. However, that being said, I do think there's some merit to them releasing that, because I think that the market is shifting towards having more natural looking skin and using minimal products, or at least minimalist products that don't add a lot to your face but help minimize certain things, so that way you don't have to pile on the products. So I think we're going to continue to see influences from Korea and from Japan, where natural skin is kind of the trend there. We're probably going to see a lot more face products. For example, like Makeup Geek has been talking about releasing foundation and concealers, and they have some formulas that they're finalizing with their labs. So I feel as though there are going to be a lot more indie brands releasing foundations and concealers, and there's a huge drive for more inclusivity with, you know, skin tones and shade matching. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that take off in 2021, especially since this year the Black Lives Matter movement and, you know, social injustice movements have come to light. So we're probably going to see a lot more diversity. I think we're also going to see that in kind of a business sense, and I'll go into that a little bit more in a bit. But I think that we're going to see a lot more beauty brands releasing products that appeal to a broader range of people and skin tones, which would be amazing. Hopefully the formulas are great. A lot of brands end up planning at least a year in advance with their launches. So all of the stuff that's happened this year hasn't really been able to go into production for many reasons. COVID, and COVID, and then of course, you know, money and having other products that they need to push that had already gone to market. So I feel like now that we're coming into a new year, all of those things are going to be coming into play pretty early on in the year. In terms of makeup releases, I think we're also going to see an influx of micro-influencers doing collaborations with both indie and larger brands. And we've already kind of seen that happen this past year. Midas Cosmetics, for example, has done a couple of collaborations with influencers who don't have the largest following but have created great products with them, and they've been successful launches. So I think seeing a small brand partner with smaller influencers, that has kind of set a precedent in some ways for other brands to do the same thing. There have been a lot of influencer collaborations this past year or two where I don't know the name of the person, and it might be just because I'm not part of their targeted audience. It could be a number of things, but I think it's kind of cool. You know, the larger influencers are, you know, focusing on their own brands and or have, you know, managers and agents who say, in order for us to do a collaboration, we want to negotiate for XYZ. We want to make sure that they're paid XYZ and commissions and these things. And sometimes for these smaller indie brands, that's out of their price range. And so micro influencers are the way to go. Plus, it appeals to different audiences, and I think that is a smart move, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that happening in 2021. On that same note, I also feel as though some brands, maybe not all, like Colourpop and Makeup Revolution, are going to continue down their path of continuous releases just because that's their thing. But I do think we're going to see a slowdown of some companies in their production. I feel as though a lot of companies have taken a huge hit this year in not being able to sell as many products because of production delays. Fewer people are able to buy products. Those are the two main reasons, but there are also other issues that come into play. I think we're going to start seeing that ripple effect occur in 2021, which When a brand isn't able to recoup the costs of a line or a product or a collection that they're releasing, that means it's less money for them to be able to invest in future products. So I think a lot of brands are going to be more mindful about what products they push out and the kinds of products that they release as well. So for brands who haven't really explored a lot of new product lines, they're probably going to delay those a little bit more because it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of resources to be able to fully explore and create and develop those formulas that work for a vast amount of people. Plus, with social distancing, it's really hard to do a lot of market research and actual testing with people to make sure that some of those products work well for them. At least that's how I would approach it. If I had a makeup brand or any kind of beauty brand, I would do a lot of market research and having people test out products with different skin tones and different skin types and sensitivities, just to get a fuller understanding of how those products work for them. And I know that other brands do that. I don't think we really truly see the effects of COVID yet. I think we're really going to see that in 2021. So a lot of the brands that we would expect releases from, especially smaller indie brands, we might not actually see as many releases from them. They're probably also going to be more curated, and they may actually focus more on like influencer collaborations as opposed to a traditional launch. So that might be something we see. It'll be interesting for sure to see what happens in 2021. But just as a reminder, try to shop indie and small business if you can, especially if you want them to survive COVID, because a lot of businesses aren't surviving right now. Another trend that I think we might see in product is smaller eyeshadow palettes. We've already seen a lot of brands do this, like Huda Beauty, Colourpop has shifted to this. I think Morphe might even do this soon. The 9-pan palettes, and then things like this. This is the Laura Mercier palette that's 6 pans. I think we might see more of these. Juvia's Place recently launched a couple of quads in collaboration with a couple of other influencers. So I think we're going to see a lot more smaller palettes come to market, especially since it is cheaper for production purposes to come up with maybe a couple of eyeshadows or products and the components as opposed to a larger palette. So we might see more of those come to market, which I'll be excited for. I honestly love small palettes because I feel like you can look at a color story and say, I know exactly what kind of look I'm going to be able to create with that. If you have a specific vibe or look in mind, you know exactly what palette you can grab for that will create that look for you, that's why I like small palettes as an example. The large ones is just like product overload, and I know a lot of people feel that way, so I feel as though 2021 is going to be the year where the smaller palettes make a comeback. I would love to see more quads and trios for sure, and I think we are going to see some of those coming back. I think duochromes are also going to be pretty popular for mainstream brands. Maybe not every brand will release them, but I think that they will become more popularized, as we've seen in 2020. Cleona and I think it's Give Me Glow, JD Glow, I forget which one, and a couple other brands have launched duochromes and multi-chromes that have taken the YouTube beauty community by storm. I think we're going to see some of that trickle into mainstream. I don't think it's going to be as big in the mainstream as it is for the YouTube beauty community or those who are younger and on social. Because honestly, the largest consumers of makeup are people who tend to be a little bit older and have more money to spend on makeup, and they don't tend to wear duochromes. They tend to like things like Clinique or Bare Minerals or Estee Lauder, things that are more classic beauty related. So I think it'll be interesting to see if that happens. We'll probably see that coming with like CoverGirl, Maybelline, maybe L'Oreal, Wet n Wild, maybe even Milani. I don't know, it'll be interesting to see. So cross your fingers if that's something you're hoping for. I think mask-friendly makeup is also going to be really popular. So setting sprays are probably going to be even bigger in 2021 than they are now, because people are going to want to set their makeup and make sure it doesn't move or budge as we're wearing masks. I think we're going to see an influx of those come to market. I also think that liquid lipsticks are going to come back, especially if they're long lasting, but then at the same time they might not. For me, it's a mixed bag. It might be liquid lipsticks that are long lasting, like the Maybelline ones that I always talk about, or it might shift to the opposite and be more like lip stains. Remember lip stains? I used to love those because you just had a little bit of color, you didn't have to worry about it transferring, and you didn't have that balmy feeling to your lips. That might make a comeback in 2021. We might also see some cheek tints to kind of circle back to that blush topic. We might see some cheek tints. So Benetint, does anyone remember Benefit's Benetint? I think we might see some of those kinds of products making a comeback in 2021, which kind of excites me because I like those kinds of products. All right, now we're gonna shift gears and talk about business. So I like talking nerdy, I like talking business because that's my background, is business strategy and marketing and getting deep into data and analytics. That's my jam. So I don't often talk about that stuff here on YouTube, but I think I'm going to start a new series called Beauty in the Brain, where I just kind of dive into business talk and just things that are interesting to me that I think I want to talk about. So if that sounds interesting to you, give me a thumbs up and let me know. Anyway, I think in the business side, there's going to be a lot of changes happening. I think we're going to see quite a few acquisitions happening. So we see brands like L'Oreal purchasing companies. We've seen it in the past with NYX and Too Faced and Tarte, Becca Cosmetics. A lot of these more mainstream brands, and Kendo took over KVD, which it was already the owner of KVD or Kat Von D Beauty, but now they've reclaimed full ownership and have rebranded it since to KVD Vegan Beauty. But I think we're going to see a lot more acquisitions taking place in 2021, or at least the announcements of that. And the reason I think that is because COVID has significantly hit our economy really hard. Makeup is not a necessity. It's considered a consumer good, but not a life necessity. So people who may normally be consumers of makeup are not buying it as much as they did in prior years. I feel as though there are so many companies who are just trying to bear the weight of their overhead costs and recoup costs from things that they lost money on in 2020, that the only way they can stay in business is to be acquired by a larger company like L'Oreal. In that note, we might also see Morphe and Colourpop kind of entering that space. So Colourpop and Morphe are two competitors, and their business models are very similar. You may not know this, but I'll do a deeper dive on this in a couple of weeks where I talk about Colourpop more in depth. But Colourpop owns multiple brands like KKW Beauty, Kylie Beauty, Tati Beauty, of course all the Colourpop brands themselves. Colourpop's parent company owns all these brands, and I see that parent company going out and acquiring new brands to bring under their umbrella. I think their business goal is to eventually become like a L'Oreal. I think what they're going to do is attempt to expand their portfolio to include brands that are pretty popular on social media, but try to make them bigger household names. So I think we're going to see a lot more of these more indie brands online kind of going to market, and I think we might see some shifts in what kinds of storefronts are available. I don't know that Colourpop or Seed Beauty, their parent company, will necessarily do this, but it would be interesting to see if this is in their plan at some point, but to open a storefront that contains all of their brands. So we might see a Tati Beauty, we might see, well, we don't know what's going to happen with Tati Beauty, let's just be honest, but we might see a Tati Beauty palette in store, we might see more KKW in store, we might see Kylie Beauty in store, we might see like a full range of Colourpop and all of their other subsidiary brands all in one storefront. I don't know if 2021 will bring that, but I definitely see that as something that they're probably looking to do and probably doing some exploration on. Then again, who knows? NYX had a storefront in many locations, but they've since closed them, and that is backed by L'Oreal. I think Colourpop's parent company is going to enter that space, and I think we're going to see some interesting things come about from this parent company. So keep an eye out, we'll see. And as their competitor, I think Morphe is going to enter in that space. They already have storefronts. They've carried brands like Lime Crime and Jeffree Star, and they carry multiple brands in their stores. So I think Colourpop is going to enter that space to compete with them. And I think they're also going to enter a larger marketplace in order to compete with larger businesses like L'Oreal or Louis Vuitton or all these brands that own larger makeup brands like Revlon, etc. Speaking of retail, I think we're also going to see some additional changes on that. So there's been news that Sephora and JCPenney might be severing their ties, and Sephora might be moving into Kohl's. And then Ulta is looking at moving into a Target store. So I think we're going to see a trend of that as well. Perhaps going back to Colourpop and their parent company, Seed Beauty, we might actually see them expanding their portfolio into some sort of storefront like Target or maybe even Walmart or something like that. It'll be interesting to see. But I think we're definitely going to be seeing a lot more brands come into retail stores, because the thing about the internet is you have a wide audience, but at the same time, the largest consumers and the most amount of money being spent on cosmetics isn't from, our age group. I'm in my 30s. It's not coming necessarily from millennials or Generation Z folks. It's coming from people who are Gen X, who are boomers. It's because they have that money to spend. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be that way forever, but right now that is the case. And I think we're going to see a lot more brands attempting to reach this audience because COVID has hit so hard. The people who are most disadvantaged by economic downturns are students or people who have low-paying jobs or might have been furloughed because they're in the service industry. We're probably going to see a lot more of these businesses strategize ways to reach audiences that have larger amounts of disposable income. And that's going to be the way that they survive. We're probably going to see them moving more into retail storefronts because of them needing to reach larger audiences. That also means that their products will have to be appealing to a more diverse audience as well. So Makeup Geek has already done this. They've been at Target already, and the products that they have at Target are not their full line. So I don't think we're going to see full lines at retail stores. I do think that a lot of that will still be online. However, I do think we're going to see some limited product lines enter different retail stores, because these mostly internet-based brands need a way to expand that goes beyond typical internet marketing. I think we're going to see a return to kind of more of this traditional marketing in that sense. I don't know if this is interesting to you. I like to get into the nitty-gritty of this business strategy and kind of thinking about what people are doing, what businesses are doing, and how they're looking to survive. So that I find it fascinating. So that's that for the business side. Let's shift gears one more time and look at YouTube in general, like our YouTube beauty community and some of the things that I think will happen in 2021. We're going to see a lot more influencers shift away from their typical beauty content and maybe expand into lifestyle, vlogging, or maybe even some variety programming. And I say that because as much as people love makeup, the trends, at least from what I can tell, viewer trends are moving away from traditional tutorials. Reviews are still popular, but I think we're going to see a shift in how many reviews we're seeing because there's going to be a shift in how many products are being launched and what brands are willing to send out to influencers. So I think, like, as a whole beauty community, we're going to see some shifts there. And I'm actually excited because as much as I love the beauty community, I do get bored with some of that content over and over again. And I'm subscribed to maybe 250 to 300 people, and seeing the same 10 people reviewing this same palette all at once, it's like, okay, I already know I'm not going to buy that palette, and I don't need to see 10 reviews on it, so I'm going to skip that content. And I think people have really felt that pinch this year in people not even wanting to watch review videos because they already know that they can't afford to buy it, or it's just not something that interests them. So I think we might see a dip in reviews. I think we might see a dip in specific kinds of beauty content and a shift into more diverse or a variety of content on channels For me, however, I'm going to keep this channel related to beauty in some sense because that is the brand of Makeupry. I own a business that houses my Makeupry brand, so I'm keeping that here, but I do have 2 other YouTube channels, so shameless plug. So if you want to see more lifestyle stuff from me, or like cooking and art and crafts and that sort of thing, then I have those channels linked below, but they're going to remain separate because I like having my brand separated that way, but that's just me. I think we're going to see a generalized shift in the content that some of our favorite influencers and some of our favorite YouTubers create. As an example, Jaclyn Hill has had a lot of success in uploading videos that are more lifestyle related. She did a couple of videos highlighting her favorite snacks and doing like a pantry tour, and like her Crunchwrap Supreme dupe has gotten a lot of success, and I see that people are really shifting more towards having that kind of content. Maybe it's more relatable, it's feel-good content, and I do see that people are really appreciating her new content, so I feel like audiences are kind of shifting away from that traditional, this is beauty and that's all this is, to okay, it's beauty and it's other things sprinkled in. We saw that with Jen Love, or who is formerly known as Jen Love's Reviews. Her content is kind of adapting and changing as well. So I think we're going to see a lot more of rebranding in the near future. I think we're also going to see YouTube originals grow. We're already seeing that expand. Nikki Tutorials just announced recently, and I think she just launched it too, but a special YouTube series talking about her. It's kind of like a biographical sequence of her life leading up to her becoming one of the biggest influencers in the world. And I think that's so amazing. I think we're going to see these larger influencers kind of cross this traditional media line, and YouTube Studios, YouTube Originals is starting to kind of become more mainstream. They're looking to compete with Hulu and Sling and Netflix, and having their largest creators develop content that will engage mainstream media audiences. So I think we're going to see a lot more of these larger YouTubers doing collaborations and launching larger productions, like we saw with James Charles and his show. I'm sure we're going to see a season 2 of that pretty soon. We also saw in 2020 Paris Hilton partnered with YouTube to launch her documentary. I think we're going to see a lot more of that in 2021, which is kind of cool, because that means that you don't have to be a celebrity and you don't have to be an actor or actress necessarily to break into the show business. It's kind of interesting to me, but it's also exciting at the same time, because that opens up so many more opportunities for people to not just be an influencer. These people are so talented with production and planning and creating content that, you know, appeals to so many people. So it would make sense that YouTube would want to harness all that creative energy and being able to enter mainstream media in that way, and being able to utilize their creators to develop this content without having to invest in their own agency teams. Anyway, I think that's going to be big. I think we're going to see more influencers doing that. That will very likely expand beyond just the beauty community. We'll also see it across multiple platforms and different communities here on YouTube. I think we're also going to see some brands kind of take on new personas in YouTube. You know, there's some brand owners who are already on YouTube and have had success here, but I think we might see a shift in that as well. You know, Besame has its own channel and they come on and do lives to do tutorials and such. Marlena from Makeup Geek is still on YouTube. She occasionally uploads. She did Vlogmas, for example. Jen Gerard from Gerard Cosmetics has a channel and she uploads it occasionally. I think we might see more of these smaller indie brands kind of coming back onto YouTube and or social, and just kind of connecting with this community again. And I think it's going to be especially important for these brands in order for them to kind of recoup and reconnect with their audiences to keep their products and their branding at the forefront of consumers' minds. So I think we're going to see a little bit of that as well. And then finally, I think this one is also interesting. Now, there is a large community growing here on YouTube. We may have heard of Emily D. Baker, the badass attorney. I've gotten a new appreciation for law because of her channel and for her content. And she's been covering the Tati lawsuits, particularly the one with Without a Crystal Ball. Now, this case is really interesting to me because we haven't really seen a lot of cases like this. YouTubers who have gained such a mass following are basically celebrities, and celebrities don't necessarily have the same rights under libel or slander or defamation as a private citizen would, because they are a public figure. And I think what's interesting in this situation is that Tati is such a renowned YouTuber, but now she's suing the smaller YouTuber for defamation. And essentially it's kind of like a public figure suing another public figure, but a lesser known YouTube figure. But I think what's interesting about this case is not necessarily that it's, you know, YouTuber drama, but it's probably going to set a precedent for how YouTube addresses defamation and slander and libel in the future. As far as I know, and I'm not an attorney and I'm not a legal expert by any means, but I don't think there is a lot of precedent to go off of in these instances. And YouTube has just been kind of, I feel like they just truck along with these legal things. You know, for the longest time, you know, influencers and YouTubers would do sponsorships and not disclose the fact that they were sponsorships. And YouTube didn't seem to really care about that until the FTC stepped in and said, hey, they have to disclose this. So then we started seeing some changes in the back end with now you have to disclose that that is a paid sponsorship, or there's some sort of affiliation with that brand, that you know that there's consequences for not declaring that, at least here in the United States. So we saw YouTube step in with that. The biggest and most controversial one so far has been COPPA, the child protection laws. If you create content that's aimed towards children, you can't monetize those videos because there are strict laws about the age of consent and the age of awareness, I guess is the way to put it. So someone under the age of 13 is not able to make a rational decision on whether or not to buy something, so you can't necessarily market to them. There are actually stricter laws in Europe about this, but I think it's fascinating. But at the same time, YouTube was kind of late to the game on that. They waited until they had to make changes to their platform to abide by these changing laws. And right now, YouTube, along with some other large companies like Facebook and Google, and Alphabet, the parent companies of YouTube, are in litigation about COPPA and about data and all of these little intricacies that we don't think about as creators and or consumers of the content, viewers. I think this particular lawsuit between Tati and Without a Crystal Ball is going to really determine what happens in that space. I think if that lawsuit proceeds and there's a judgment against Without a Crystal Ball, and being that Tati is such a huge influencer and has such a huge audience, I won't say backlash, but I think the consequences and the effect that would have in YouTube will be pretty immense. I think that will forever change the platform and how people have to be truthful in what they say about others and being careful about presenting information as either fact or opinion. So I think YouTube is going to have to change up how that is structured on the back end in some way. I don't necessarily know what that's going to look like. If it's just going to be a little checkbox saying, I understand that YouTube's not liable for what I say, that, what I say is truthful to the best of my knowledge, something like that. It might be as simple as a checkbox, or it might be that YouTube makes people sign an agreement saying that YouTube's not liable for any of that stuff. I don't know. I just feel like there's going to be some changes with YouTube based on whatever happens in that lawsuit. We might not even see it in 2021. It depends on when that lawsuit is over, and it doesn't look like it's going to be settled anytime soon. There's a lot of content. There's a lot of little moving pieces in that lawsuit, so maybe we might not even see this come to pass until maybe 2022, maybe longer, depending on what that comes to. But either way, I think that'll be interesting to see in the YouTube space and how that affects other communities as well. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I covered here, and I think it's all fascinating. I think trends and predictions are so much fun, and I like taking it a step further and kind of going into business and I don't know. This is my first time talking about business like this on YouTube. So if you're interested in this kind of content, let me know. Because as I said before, I'm thinking about doing a beauty in the brain kind of, well, let's play on words, but I'm thinking about doing some sort of series where I can talk about business like this and be honest and be real and be able to marry two of my passions into one space. So anyway, give me a thumbs up for that. Let me know, what do you think? Do you think any of these predictions make sense to you? Or do you disagree with anything I said? Or maybe there's some predictions that I didn't mention that you think will happen. Let me know. I would love to hear what your thoughts are. And of course, you know, some fun stuff. Giveaway time. Are you ready for a giveaway? I am. There are 2 items here that you could potentially win. There is the Urban Decay Reversion Mascara, and then you'll also receive the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base, and this is like a mini sample, but it's a very large mini sample. So you'll win these 2 items. They are 2 of my favorite products, and I am excited for one of you to win that. So in order to win, you have to be subscribed to this channel, of course. It should go without saying, but it's kind of a YouTube thing. You gotta be subscribed, right? All right, and then I would also like for you to share this video, be it on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, wherever you feel comfortable sharing it. And then also leave a comment below and just let me know what your thoughts are. This giveaway will end at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on December 31st. So be sure to leave your comment and subscribe by then to be eligible to win. And then I will select a winner shortly after and reach out within a day or 2 of that. Along with that, please be sure to leave your Instagram handle, a Twitter handle, or email, or some way for me to reach out to you in case you do win. Because there would be nothing worse for you to be the winner, but I can't reach out to you to get your address. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. Hope it was interesting. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay electric. Yeah. All right. See you next time. Bye.